So that was my question. The obvious question here is, how did you tell us about the audition process? And I love the fact that you're telling us your first couple of dates with the band. You're a little nervous, so you are very self-aware. You strike me as a guy who's self-aware, and you'll admit if you were nervous or you were off or whatever. So tell us about, how'd you get the phone call to audition, and then how'd you feel about the audition after you were done, and then what sealed the deal?
Well, it's a wild, kind of a wild story, because it goes. I have known Stet for a billion years, because he's from the Cape, and
okay,
yeah, so he from the same. We rocked the same neighborhoods. You know what I mean? He was, obviously he's older than me, and he was doing a lot more at the time when I was just starting. So he was like the guy. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And then of course, when he got into Wasp and all that other stuff, he was like, oh my God, that's the rock star dude now,
Yeah.
And but I've known him for a long time. And as time's gone on and I started doing, more and more, we kind of even connected more. We had a lot more in common to talk about,
Yeah.
So we basically, we played with Metal Church. I played with Metal Church with Rasta Boss at Bang Your Head Festival in Germany. I think it was I want to say 2019. And we, I was all excited. I love Metal Church. So I remember we were playing the same day. They were playing in the day we were playing. We were headlining on another stage. They were playing a different stage outside. So I remember I still have the video of that day, which is fucking wild. I just found it. I forgot I had it. It's pretty crazy. I'm on the side of the stage taking video of them playing, and it was awesome. And they were in Stet, and I started to get to know Steve, bass player. And Stet's like, hey, we're staying to watch you guys play. And I'm like, oh, great. He goes, we're supposed to be leaving, and we were playing with Laurence, saying I'm good friends with Joey.
Yeah.
So, they were like, oh, we're going to come out to the thing. Of course, we're playing late. And they're like, oh, we told our bus driver we're staying. So it's like, oh, cool. Well, so we go to play, and, it was funny because they're all in the front. So here's Armored Saint and Metal Church, and I'm playing, and I'm like, I know they're there. And of course I'm cautious of it, but it just so happened we had a really, really good show that night, which was fantastic, So, that was great. It was good to, Kurt showed up, everybody was there, and they were like, oh, it was a great show, whatever. So that goes about.
And this is with, I'm sorry to interrupt. Is this with, I'm sorry, singing for Metal Church? Singing with Metal Church was Ronnie?
No, it was Mike.
Oh, Mike. It was, okay. So this was, okay. Mike.
This is 2019. Yep.
Okay. So Mike.
It was a Damned If You Do tour. The last record.
All right. Okay.
So I got a call, I don't know, some months later, about possibly, I guess there was some kind of scheduling conflict, and that possibly Mike wasn't going to be able to do a couple of festival appearances. And they were like, would you be interested in doing it? And of course, I'm like, oh yeah, of course. Nothing ever came of it, but it was, it was nice to be even mentioned and asked,
Oh my God. Yeah.
So I was like, wow, that's cool. And of course, at the time I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, how am I going to do this, man? I forgot that stuff, it's not like you can do that shit just in a whim, I'm like, fuck, I better start going over a couple of these songs. You know what I mean? Just in case,
I can relate. You're worrying about it. You're worrying about it before the phone rang.
Yeah, exactly. I was worried about it before even they was like, oh, can you do the gig? I was just like it was great. I mean, I was always into when I'm doing my own rehearsals, it's always fun to do something different, So
Sure.
I guess I did that into my rehearsal for fun, not thinking that how much that was going to come in handy later. Right. Anyways, so then all of a sudden the whole world shuts down, the whole 9 yards. And then, I hear, like everybody else, that Mike had passed away. And I was like, my heart just went, I was like, whoa. like, that's fucked up. I'm like, fuck. I'm like, there's no way that band's going to go on after all this stuff that they've been through. I'm like, it's kind of, you think after all this time, it's got like, maybe that was a sign to say, hey, let's, maybe we should call it. This would be a good time to end it on this note,
Yeah.
But that was, I remember talking to Stet and everybody was in disbelief and, obviously time goes and I get a call and they're like, hey, what's going on? And when I got the call, I kind of had this really weird feeling. I was like, they're going to ask me to play. I don't know how I feel about this. Now, mind you, I didn't pick up the phone yet.
Okay. Wow,
I'm looking at it going, yeah, I know what this is going to be. I got a weird, I'm like, yeah, I have a weird feeling about this, but.
Is it Stet calling?
It's Stet calling.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
So that's what the phone call was. And I was like, yeah, man. I'm like, yeah, what am I going to say? No, of course, hanging up the phone in the back of my mind, I'm like, there's a million things going on. I'm like, wow. I'm like, I don't even know how I feel about this because it feels weird.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm like, I didn't, getting a gig like, like this would be just, it would just felt just, that's how I am. I just was like, wow, man, that's just crazy. I mean, I didn't have the gig yet or anything, but I would just even like the notion of even getting going into it.
Yeah, but there's a tingle kind of a thing where you start.
Oh God, there was absolutely an excitement because here's a band that I grew up
shit.
with.
It's shit.
This is like, wow, this is big time. What the fuck?
Yeah.
This is crazy, at the same time. And, it was a pretty interestingly long process, which you have to understand. I mean, basically, I get on the phone with Stet and I started talking to Steve and then I talked to Kurt and, Kurt was awesome. And, we kind of like, it was loose, very loose because we didn't, nobody knew nobody knew what was going on. We didn't know I didn't know if they had other people they were looking at or whatever. So I kind of kept a very open mind about it. And I'm still doing all my raw stuff too. So that kind of kept me balanced in the head there, And I remember I was home and I was working a lot, my regular job that I was doing at the time. And I remember them going, all right, well, you can do pick a couple of old Metal Church tunes, one from Mike, one from Dave, and that you want to do. And I was like, now, of course, that took me a minute because I'm like, what do I do?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, the obvious would be, for the Mike stuff, we've got to do Badlands because there's always going to be in the set. But with David, for me, I was like, man, what do I go with this? I picked Metal Church because it was always my favorite song. And they hadn't played that live since Ronnie was in the band.
Wow.
So I was like, well, I mean, that'll pretty much cover the spectrum of what's going on. So I remember I get the demo of the stuff and, I start to do it. And, there's a big difference when you're singing in your room, messing around to actually putting it down on tape and analyzing it. Now it's an audition. It changes the game, And I was like, ooh. I remember going, wow, this is did I take on more than I could chew here? I'm like, I don't know. I go, well, obviously it's a totally different monster here. And I have to approach it as such. And I remember I did the first couple of runs and I before I would send it to Kurt, I let Stet and I let Steve hear it just to kind of get what do you think? Where should I go? Should I try to do it like the record? You don't know. You don't know what they're looking for, And
so
I just remember them going,
I'm sorry to interrupt. This was a recording you were doing to send to them? Oh, okay. Yeah. Like an audition tape.
Yeah, audition tape. Yep.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, and I wanted to keep it simple. I wasn't, I was going to go and do all kinds of crazy production. That's fake, So I remember I did Badlands and which is weird because Mike Howe is not my style at all. So that took a lot longer because I'm feeling my way through it because it was new to me. You know what I mean? But I was like, all right, well, I'm going to try to do it as authentic as possible just to get the point across. If I get the gig, that'll be a work in progress. We'll fine tune it there, but kind of just serving its purpose. And I didn't want to take forever because then the audition process passes, kind of hit it while it's hot. But then when I get to when I get to the Metal Church tune, I'm like, okay. Now what can I do? So interestingly enough, I did 2 versions. I did a version that was very David Wayne-ish copy. And then I did my version.
Okay.
Because those guys are like, you got to do your own version of it. And I'm like, okay. I sent them all to, finally felt confident, and I sent them all to Kurt, and he loved it. I was like, okay, cool. So the next phase was like now writing.